Before he was the Doctor, David Tennant played Casanova, a love-struck soldier and a crooked vicar. One role helped him land Doctor Who, another teamed him with Michael Sheen, and one nearly vanished in a half-forgotten BBC miniseries. These are the 7 period dramas Tennant starred in, and odds are you haven't seen half of them. This is where it all started. If Casanova hadn't happened, we might not have had David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. It's a randy little period piece, exactly the kind of mischief PBS masterpiece would slip in under the radar. Russell T Davies saw Tennant's performance here and immediately knew he was his Doctor. This isn't your typical stiff retelling of the Casanova myth. It's quick, cheeky, a little bit outrageous. The tone leans modern and irreverent, with anachronisms, wardrobe disasters, and the kind of wink at the audience energy that actually works. Tennant plays the young Casanova with a mix of manic charm and genuine vulnerability. He's illegitimate, abandoned, brilliant, and constantly shape-shifting. First a lawyer, then a doctor, then an astrologer, all in service of climbing into Venice's aristocracy and Henriette's good graces. And yes, that's Laura Fraser as Henriette, perfect casting. Casanova's one true love, and of course, she's the one woman he can't have. As Tennant later said, Casanova ended up being his prolonged audition for Doctor Who. Not that he realized it at the time, but anyone watching him here would have seen it coming. Now this one's a little harder to love, even if you really want to. The Last September has 2 things going for it: Maggie Smith and Michael Gambon. The scenes between them are absolute gold. Everything else feels like it's drifting in from another film entirely. Set in Ireland, 1920, right in the middle of the Anglo-Irish conflict, it's supposed to be about this group of wealthy expats clinging to their old lifestyle while everything around them starts to crumble. But the pacing is off, the tone is uncertain, and most of the storylines never really land. David Tennant shows up as a young British soldier who falls for the lady of the house. He doesn't get much screen time, but what's there is solid. His character's earnest, awkward, and completely out of his depth. You can feel how young and emotionally exposed he is, which makes it hit even harder when she breaks his heart. This one's based on a Trollope novel, which means you're in for a slow spiral of social agony in Victorian era. It's about a man convinced without evidence that his wife is cheating on him. Tennant's playing the subplot vicar here, one of those characters who seem to shift personalities depending on what the script needs that day. One minute he's this cynical opportunist, playing up to rich women for their money. The next, he's a goofy idiot who seems barely capable of a full sentence. It's not his strongest role, and it doesn't give him much to work with. You can tell he's trying to find something real in it, but the tone keeps slipping around. The story around him isn't doing much better. There's a cranky old aunt, some romantic entanglements that never really go anywhere, and a lot of scenes that just sort of float by. That said, Laura Fraser shows up again, and she's great. She grounds the whole thing whenever she's on screen. Honestly, she deserved more to do. And you can't help wondering what Tennant would have done with the lead role instead, the increasingly unhinged husband. Now that would have been worth seeing. Einstein and Eddington tells the story of how Albert Einstein and British scientist Sir Arthur Eddington, played by Andy Serkis and David Tennant, formed a working relationship that ended up changing the course of modern science. The film really takes time to show what these 2 men were going through on a personal level. The backdrop is World War I, with all the pressure and suspicion that came with being on opposite sides of a very real and brutal conflict. You get both the science and the emotional weight. And that's not something most films about scientists ever pull off. This one manages to make incredibly complex ideas feel accessible without talking down to the audience. And Tennant and Serkis are both excellent here. The cast as a whole is strong. The cinematography holds up, and it does a solid job staying rooted in the right kind of historical context. Just don't expect a documentary. This one's more of a blink and you'll miss it for Tennant, but it's a fun watch all the same. He appears in just one episode of the Mrs. Bradley Mysteries, playing a suspiciously charming music teacher at an elite girls' finishing school in the 1920s. Now, the mystery itself is on the cozy end of things. Very polite murders, upper-class banter, lots of witty dialogue. Tennant doesn't take center stage here, and he's not supposed to. His character blends into the background just enough to make you keep guessing. Also, there's this lovely little Doctor Who connection tucked in there. Peter Davison, the Fifth Doctor himself, shows up as the inspector. Watch closely for Tennant's reaction when they share a scene. Doesn't break character, but you can tell he's loving it. This one jumps forward a decade to the 1930s. Bright Young Things is Stephen Fry's one and only feature film as a director, adapted from Evelyn Waugh's Vile Bodies. The film dives into the lives of young, broke aristocrats in London, full of parties, scandals, and no real idea what they're doing with themselves. The cast is absolutely stacked. Michael Sheen, James McAvoy, Emily Mortimer, Jim Broadbent, Imelda Staunton, and yes, David Tennant in a small but memorable role. And fun fact, this is where Tennant and Sheen first met, kicking off a friendship and creative partnership that would eventually lead to Good Omens and that lockdown comedy series that still holds up. As a film, it's got its moments. It starts off shaky, but once it gets going, it hits some pretty sharp beats. It captures that specific pre-war decadence with a decent balance of absurdity and melancholy. Don't expect perfection. It is Fry's debut after all, but there's something weirdly charming about it. Spies of Warsaw is set in the tense years leading up to World War II, with David Tennant playing Jean-François Mercier, a French military attaché stationed in Poland. It's not your typical spy thriller. This one plays it slow and steady, leaning into political tension and intelligence gathering. It's beautifully shot, grounded in real locations, and takes care to reflect the atmosphere of Europe on the brink. Tennant's character acts as the emotional anchor here. You're not just watching events unfold, you're seeing them through his eyes, which helps hold the thing together even when the pace dips. The supporting cast is strong, especially the Polish actors who bring a ton of weight to the drama. Some viewers found it too slow or a bit too restrained, especially if they went in expecting Bond, but that's not what this series is doing. It's not about gadgets or big explosions. It's a bit of a sleeper, but a smart one. Worth watching if you're after something more grounded and character-driven.